Terrible, dangerous, ghost, horror!
Hello honeys, Toudou Yurika is a surprisingly lighthearted character in the Aikatsu anime, which I've discovered by analyzing all of her experiences and motivations. This is a thorough deep dive containing spoilers for the entire original series, including the 10th anniversary film, Starway to the Future. If that's okay with you, let's get started. Toudou Yurika's defining trait is her vivid imagination. We don't get a ton of info about her childhood or motivations, but we know that she spends most of her early life playing in her own world. And for some reason, maybe an interest in rock music that she becomes known for later, she decides to enroll in an elite idol boarding school called Starlight Academy. The competition is fierce. The school only has around 300 students and thousands of applicants, but she has enough of an aptitude for it that she gets in. Despite the fact that she's just proven herself to be a qualified singer and dancer, Yurika is still only 12 years old when she moves into the school dorms and begins to train as a professional entertainer. She is implied to have been very reserved, and her fellow students are all significantly more extroverted. Better at standing out, for one thing. The Aikatsu official guidebook explains that she felt inferior to the other idols around her and became depressed. Yurika says herself, "I saw how brightly everyone was shining. I thought that I had nothing in comparison." This isn't entirely true, of course. Yurika is noted by the Aikatsu series' 10th anniversary book to be skilled at swimming, especially butterfly stroke. Although the Aikatsu official guidebook concedes that she is not good at sports and has a quiet personality. Series director Ryuichi Kimura describes her as both strong-willed and timid in the animated Aikatsu movie edition. So her biggest strength is undoubtedly that she is a prolific reader. She is particularly interested in European fairy tales and books about transformation, which made her the perfect audience for a manga titled The Vampire's Lover. Though vampires must never love humans, Yurika later explains, she fell in love with a man. It's a story about how her love can never be fulfilled. I was struck by how sorrowful it was, and started to like vampires more and more. With her imagination fueled by the medieval, aristocratic settings of vampire tales, Yurika's childhood worlds are consumed by old European dolls and frilly clothes. Now, as a fledgling idol, Yurika struggles to find a place for herself and her interest in the entertainment industry. Even when she discovers a clothing brand, Lolly Gothic, that perfectly suits her taste, she feels unworthy of its fantastical designs. Faced with such a deep sense of inferiority, Yurika yearns for strength and makes the fateful decision to try playing in one of her own worlds again. To pretend, just like when she was little, in a last-ditch effort to survive in Starlight Academy's cutthroat competitive environment. Yurika pretends to be Yurika-sama, a descendant of Count Dracula who shares his 600 years of age. Her mother is Carmilla, another famous literary vampire, and her father is a human man, inspired by her favorite manga series. And since Yurika had already styled her hair like the protagonist from that series, Yurika-sama wears hers in curled twin tails, just like when she was little. Yurika quickly becomes excited about her character. A vampire only drinks blood, so she picks rose tea and tomato juice as the closest available options. A vampire is weakened by sunlight, so she carries a parasol to protect herself, which also turns out to be useful for getting out of daytime exercise. And finally, as an ancient aristocrat, her character has plenty of reason to place herself above the lowly mortals of Starlight Academy. When Yurika starts acting out her character at school, it's an incredibly risky move. People could reject her entirely for changing her appearance and personality so drastically. But to her surprise, the reaction she gets from fellow students and the public alike is positive. Overwhelmingly positive. When Yurika acts like she's better than everyone else, they believe her. It's incredibly empowering. Encouraged by these results, Yurika decides to make entertaining her new fans her #1 priority. They like her character, they like her world, and Yurika is happy to continue living in it for them. She makes significant changes to her lifestyle to protect her new identity. Her favorite food is garlic ramen, so she arranges for her meals to be delivered to her dorm in secret. While at school, she'll never be seen consuming anything but blood-like drinks. And at night, she wanders around campus pretending to hunt down her fellow students. Yurika also decks out her dorm room in gothic decor, complete with a real coffin to sleep in. She starts a blog to connect with her audience and develop her character even further, drawing on their reactions for inspiration. Her popularity snowballs in a positive feedback loop. The greater her commitment to the character, the more positive attention she gets. Soon, even school faculty recognize her for her professionalism, and the media begins to report that she is in contention to take the title of Starlight Queen, currently held by top idol Kanzaki Mizuki. And although these are incredible results, Yurika can't help but be confused by them. Director Kimura explains in the animated Aikatsu movie edition that she finds it strange that she's such a popular idol, and occasionally visits the school's Hall of Fame alumni statues to confirm that she's an idol. She was never recognized for her imagination before, so a part of her can't help but feel that her success is too good to be true. Maybe it's only working because no one knows how weak she actually is. If she's going to be nominated as Kanzaki Mizuki's future successor, then Yurika decides to study the top idol and emulate her flawless approach to the job. She'll hold herself to the highest possible standards and never be caught in any compromising situations. If she can keep that up, she might actually be worthy of the media's comparisons. Towards the end of her first year at Starlight, Yurika's airtight hold on her character is threatened for the first time by a fire she accidentally starts in her dorm room. While arranging candles for a blog post, she accidentally tips one over. The fire catches on her desk, smoke fills the room, and Yurika is forced to run out into the hallway, calling for help. When another student arrives, Yurika panics as she realizes that she forgot to take her parasol with her. Just as she's mourning the loss of such an important piece of her character, the other student rushes into the blaze to rescue it for her. Yurika is touched by the brave gesture, but also confused about why the other girl would endanger herself on Yurika's behalf. The girl's name is Ichigo, and she'd been following Yurika around for the past few days, so Yurika had assumed that she was a fan and given her the usual fan service. However, it appears that Ichigo isn't just a fan, she'd been genuinely trying to befriend her. Suddenly shy, Yurika thanks Ichigo and apologizes to the groundskeeper who'd arrived to put out the fire and scold her for her carelessness. More girls had gathered, so Yurika apologizes and thanks them all for checking on her as well. Yurika's gratitude quickly turns into embarrassment when Ichigo questions her out-of-character response, and she hurries to react in a way that everyone had probably been expecting. But the girls start gently teasing her instead, and Yurika realizes that they're all probably friends of Ichigo. And if they didn't actually mind the slip-up, then Yurika decides that she doesn't need to perform for them after all. Yurika invites the girls in and makes them tea in order to thank them properly. She's a little flustered when they comment on how different she seems from her usual self, but they're all so nice about her interests that she feels comfortable opening up to them. It's the first time that anyone has caught her being so vulnerable, and the acceptance she feels is cathartic. Yurika finds herself excited to talk about the origin of her character, and the books she loved, and the struggles she had to overcome at Starlight. The other girls accept her completely, and Yurika is happy to go to her next audition alongside Ichigo. It's for a rock festival sponsored by Lily Gothic, and Yurika wins. She'd been the overwhelming favorite, and she's told that she was chosen due to how well she matches the brand's image, but it was still fun to perform with a new friend. One other benefit of having new friends is the support they show her in their daily life. When Yurika gets sick ahead of the rock festival, Ichigo takes her to the hospital for a checkup, just to make sure it doesn't get worse. But tragically, it's this sweet gesture that delivers the greatest blow to Yurika's confidence since her arrival at Starlight. Paparazzi managed to get photos of her in the waiting room, fully out of character, and an article is published about her. It harshly criticizes Yurika, calling her plain and a disappointment to her fans. They even include photos of her garlic ramen orders as extra proof that she's a fraud. Ichigo and her friend Aoi are the first ones to show Yurika the article, and she runs back to her room in tears. Not only has her privacy been invaded, but all of her hard work to maintain her fanbase has just been ruined. The article repeated the sentiment that she'd been expected to reach Kanzaki Mizuki's level of popularity. But Mizuki was known for never having scandals like this. Yurika feels stupid for letting her character slip at such an important time. When Yurika's new friends stop by to try cheering her up, they encourage her to look forward to her rock festival performance. She feels a bit of hope when the conversation turns toward her costume, and they suggest that getting a premium dress from Lily Gothic will help the scandal blow over. But then Ron mentions the designer she'd need to work with and how difficult it would be to convince him, and Yurika gives up. As a fan of Lily Gothic, Yurika already knows a lot about the designer, Yume Kojimaya. In fact, it's likely that she'd already based a lot of her character on him. Maya lives his life playing the role of a vampire too, living and working in an old European-style mansion. He has a ferocious reputation. He is convincing enough to scare away all but his most devoted fans. And although we never see Yurika study his mannerisms in the show, there is a remarkable overlap between their characters' personalities and style of speaking. When Yurika thinks about asking Maya for one of his precious premium dresses, she can only see how badly she's failed to emulate him. Surely Maya would recognize her as a fraud right away, and she can't stomach the thought of being rejected by him directly. If she didn't stand a chance at gaining the approval of her hero, then maybe this whole idol thing wasn't going to work out after all. Maybe she should just quit now before her reputation gets even worse. Yurika tells her friends that she's withdrawing from the rock festival and asks them to leave her alone. She looks through her collection of lowly gothic pieces one more time before she falls asleep, preparing to say goodbye to the character she designed for them. That night, Ichigo comes back to try to cheer her up again, and Yurika tells her that she's quitting. That should be the end of it, but Ichigo surprises her. She takes Yurika's hand and drags her outside, pointing out the students waiting to spot her on her usual fan service rounds. Yurika is initially embarrassed to be seen out of character, especially now, but Ichigo explains that they're all still confident that she'll return. Finding out that she's actually a weak, boring person hasn't ruined her character for them at all. Yurika feels touched by their acceptance, as well as by their faith in her. She tells Ichigo that she still wants to meet her fans' expectations, but doesn't want to continue on as such a weak version of herself. And in that moment, she decides to face her fear of Maya's judgment. She's going to ask him for a premium dress. Luckily, the school has already arranged the exclusive meeting she'll need to make her request, so Yurika heads to Maya's mansion the next day, friends in tow. She is scared, not only of Maya, but also of the haunted house experience he set up on the ground floor. Being a fan of horror doesn't change the fact that she's easily intimidated. Yurika does her best to boldly lead everyone through the creepy building, but her friends do a lot of the heavy lifting in dealing with the scare actors and special effects. Along the way, Yurika is provoked by actors calling her unworthy of the brand, and it sparks a new level of frustration in her. It's the same thing that she's been telling herself, and the same thing that that stupid article had been implying, and hearing it here, when she's already made up her mind to become better, is aggravating. She knows she's unworthy. That's the whole reason she's here. When Yurika's friends clear a path through the end of the attraction, she reaches a dark room with another actor waiting for her. He challenges her, and the ghostly effects startle her friends when they arrive. Sick of yet another implication that she's unwelcome, Yurika finally decides to assert herself in character. That's what Maya would do, and that's all that matters, so she launches into her self-introduction and demands to see the premium dress she'd come for. But when the actor stands up, the light turns on, and Yurika recognizes him as Maya. Before she can react, Maya reveals the dress in a display case in the corner, and it immediately steals Yurika's attention. The dress is beautiful, exceeding her expectations. But the spell is broken when Maya asks if she believes she's worthy of it. The dresses I make suit only strong girls, he explains. Those who are resolute, dignified, and always looking straight ahead. Maya issues her a challenge then, revealing the article about Yurika. I won't let a girl who loses her wits just from a picture like this wear my dresses. And it's Yurika's turn to assert herself again. Ichigo tries to defend her, but she doesn't need the help this time. She storms up to Maya, snatches the article, and throws it into his fireplace. She hesitates for a moment, unsure if she crossed a line, but continues on. I want to wear your premium dress. Once I wear it, I'm sure I'll get the courage to stand in front of my fans once more. Yurika formally asks for the dress, and Maya explains how important it is that it goes to someone worthy of fulfilling his vision. He challenges her again, asking if she can honestly say that her current self is worthy of the dress, and she concedes. I cannot. But I love lily gothic dresses. I may not be worthy of wearing a premium rare dress right now, but one day I will be. I'll do everything I can to make myself worthy. I'll become an idol more worthy than anyone else to wear that lily gothic dress. Maya doesn't answer immediately. He stares her down, another challenge, and Yurika stares right back, gaze hardened with determination. After a few moments, Maya smiles. If you continue to advance with your eyes set on such a lofty goal, then one day you may finally reach it. I like girls who show effort, like you. This dress will surely suit you. Maya hands over the dress, and Yurika hurries to hide her excitement with an in-character response. She watches Maya to make sure that that was the right choice, and relaxes when he smiles and chuckles in silent approval. Yurika pulls off the rock concert that she'd been so intent on quitting, wearing her new costume with Maya watching in the audience. When she faces her fans backstage, they praise the collaboration, but also express interest in her cuter, mortal form. Yurika has already prepared her response, promising that they won't catch another glimpse of it for another 300 years. From this point on, Yurika is dead set on becoming just as immersed in her character as Maya. So when she is invited to audition for a new movie alongside her friends, she's determined to do it without compromising her new mission. Her friends all seem to understand this, except for Ron. Ron is undeniably a disciplined and talented person, and Yurika had greatly appreciated her help during the Haunted House Challenge. But for some reason, in this new audition, Ron is determined to undermine her. When they're shown the reference material for the audition, Ron seems to take pleasure in poking fun at Yurika's character. When they start training for the action scenes, Ron criticizes her for avoiding the sun, implying that she's being lazy. Even when Yurika tells her that she's taking her work seriously, Ron just points out the cracks in her performance. And even though Ron had been there when Yurika made her vow to Maya, Ron still yells at her for actually following through on her promise. Feeling betrayed by someone she thought was a good friend, Yurika refuses to bend to Ron's unfair judgment. And since she can't keep performing when she's starting to feel genuinely upset, she uses her character to excuse herself and goes back to her room to prepare for the audition on her own. When the audition arrives, Yurika is nervous to hear that the director is known for being harsh. She'll have to put all of her accumulated acting skills to the test if she has any chance at passing. They're given the scenario, and Yurika gets excited enough to forget that she's upset with Ron for a moment. The audition turns out to be very dangerous, with a booby trap maze and real props, and Yurika struggles to keep up with the frantic pace her friends are setting. Ron keeps up her criticism when Yurika complains, so when Yurika is struck by a luckily fake arrow, she decides to show off her skills. She performs a death scene so convincing that Ron is genuinely worried about her, cradling Yurika in her arms. But when she finishes her performance, Ron drops her directly onto the ground, and Yurika yells at her for the potential injury she could have caused. Determined to be a pain, Ron only criticizes Yurika for being out of character. The maze finally ends, and it's time for the acting phase. Yurika takes one look at the assembled crowd of extras and the convenient costume selection nearby, and leads everyone through the scenario with her improv skills. When it works, she makes sure to rub it in Ron's smug face. Unfortunately, another obstacle course awaits them, and Ron mocks her lack of athletic ability again. It takes everyone's help for Yurika to get through it, and even though she takes the high road and thanks Ron still acts just as passive-aggressively as ever toward her. Yurika is able to redeem herself by helping Ron escape one of the last fight scenes, and then the audition wraps up with Ichigo and their friend Otome sacrificing themselves for the team and passing the audition. They'd actually been paying attention to the plot of the scenario after all. Yurika congratulates her friends, conceding that she lost sight of their goal in the process of arguing with Ron. And when Ron agrees with her, they reach a tentative resolution to their conflict. In the end, neither of them had been very professional. And over the next few weeks, Yurika finds her admiration for Ron growing, despite the tension between them. All of her friends enjoyed lightly teasing her about her character, so maybe it was fine if Ron was a little extra pointed about it. When the girls' second year of school begins, Yurika is assigned a new student to mentor, and then begins preparing for the first major competition of the year, the Fresh Girls Cup. It's a tournament where every student is given a chance to perform against the Starlight Queen, Mizuki, to measure their skills against hers. This is an important opportunity for Yurika to see if she's capable of measuring up to the top idol after all. Yurika decides to compromise on her character just this once in holding off on eating her usual meals. She'll drink only green juice and eat only healthy foods until the competition. But it's not enough, and Yurika fails to make it past the first round. Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron all make it though, so Yurika makes sure to celebrate their success. Over the next few weeks, Yurika struggles to find the balance between being a good friend and being a good vampire. She does her best to find in-character ways to be there for them, but her priorities are undeniably different from theirs. Daytime training continues to be an issue between her and Ron. Yurika doesn't exactly want to do all the exercise that her friends are doing, and she has a good reason not to participate, so she ends up avoiding Ron whenever she forces the issue. Yurika is still serious about her work though, even if her methods differ from everyone else. Professionalism is her main priority. She cares about using practice time efficiently, and she wants to meet her fans' high expectations for her performances. So when Kanzaki Mizuki announces an audition for 2 idols to become her unit partners, Yurika is willing to compromise on some extra daylight training. She believes that Mizuki must have her eye on someone if she's holding an audition, and she's determined to find out if it's her, to finally fulfill her potential as a Mizuki caliber idol. The audition is not what anyone expected. It's a giant obstacle course, and Yurika is instantly at a disadvantage. She struggles through each round, making the top 50 cut, then the top 20, and then she's out. A wind tunnel challenge threatens to separate her from her parasol, and she chooses her character performance over passing the audition. Since her loss hadn't actually involved any rejection from Mizuki, Yurika is able to salvage her self-esteem that night. All of her friends had made it to the final round, but Mizuki had only chosen Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron for a callback performance, along with 4 other students. One of them even ended up being a new American transfer student who everyone was suddenly afraid of. Yurika insists that not only will she find another opportunity soon, but her friends are also perfectly capable of making it into Mizuki's unit. But the next day, Mizuki only picks the new American student, Ichinose Kaede, and makes Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron compete in an additional round. She's a little worried about them since they're all very close and are now about to be separated. And when Ron is chosen and taken away to start working, Yurika gets emotional along with everyone else. It's not the end of the world though. Yurika looks forward to the new opportunity she'd been anticipating when the school headmistress announced that Starlight Academy will form an additional idol unit. It ends up being Aoi and Ichigo, but Yurika is perfectly happy to congratulate them. She resolves to work even harder and pushes herself to do even more daylight training. It all pays off when Mizuki's unit, TriStar, suddenly falls apart. Yurika isn't privy to most of the details around TriStar's sudden hiatus. She knows that Ron leaves and joins Ichigo and Aoi to form Soleil, but not much else. So we can imagine her surprise when she's invited to join TriStar herself. The conversation happens off-screen, but later that night, Yurika talks about her feelings with Ron. "I couldn't sleep," she confesses. "I'm so excited. I still can't believe I was chosen." Ron doesn't comment on her breaking character this time. She laughs affectionately, confirming for Yurika that there are no hard feelings between them, and hands over her TriStar costume. Ron encourages Yurika to do her best, and Yurika doesn't feel awkward about performing in front of her this time. "Tonight is a full moon. My power is at its peak. The blood of the Moon King runs through my veins. Finally, it's time to prove herself to the top idol." The next day, Yurika has her first performance alongside Mizuki and Kaede in a joint concert with Soleil. Everyone praises her as a perfect fit for TriStar, and as she starts to work with her new unit members, she puts in every effort to stay perfectly in character, just like Mizuki herself. Mizuki approves of her, and Kaede is surprisingly accepting of her too. They've only been together for a short time when Mizuki tells them that they're already going on tour, and the school expands their plans into a joint unit tour with Soleil and Popopurin, their other friends' independent group. They'll all combine to form Star Anise, an 8-member super unit. Yurika faces the new opportunity with pride. Mizuki takes on the bulk of the promotional work, and Yurika has complete faith in her. When a typhoon threatens to cancel the first stop on the Star Anise tour, Yurika puts on a brave face to encourage everyone not to worry. She's a little embarrassed when Ichigo finds her praying for good weather that night, but is grateful when Ichigo pulls her into a comforting conversation with Otome and Kaede. It's nice to be able to rely on everyone. Luckily, the weather is clear enough the next day that the concert can go on. There's a power outage, but Mizuki leads them through it smoothly, so everything turns out fine. The rest of the tour is a lot of fun. She even finds herself teasing Ron back by the end of it. And a final cruise with fans is the icing on the cake. Yurika is surprised when Mizuki breaks up Star Anise a bit early, but she's proud to be returning to TriStar, and proud of her growth in the tour. TriStar stays busy with work, Yurika still gets time to hang out with her friends, and her popularity has never been higher. It's the culmination of all of her efforts so far, and the fulfillment of her fans' high expectations for her. When the Starlight Queen Cup comes around that fall, Yurika is serious about competing to take Mizuki's title. But she also has plenty of outside opportunities to prepare for, and she keeps her strength up by letting herself indulge in her favorite foods this time around. Maybe because of Yurika's split focus, Ichigo ends up as the finalist competing for Starlight Queen. That's fine with Yurika. She's happy to celebrate with her ahead of the final round. But then Ichigo says that she's dropping out of Starlight to move overseas to America, and Yurika is sad to think of life without one of her closest friends. She joins in on Kaede's offer to support her however she can, and is nervous to see if Ichigo is able to defeat Mizuki the next day. Kaede and Yurika are both torn on who to root for, but Mizuki secures her third Starlight Queen Cup victory. Yurika says goodbye to Ichigo at the airport along with all their friends, and once they get back to school, it's announced that Mizuki has also dropped out of Starlight Academy. Mizuki's departure is a massive shock to Yurika and everyone else in the idol world. TriStar had never discussed anything close to disbandment. They had jobs booked years in advance. They were just starting their climb to global superstardom, and now Mizuki had simply vanished, as if it had all been a dream, like the group meant nothing to her. The school headmistress meets with Yurika and Kaede to offer them a chance to continue as a duo, but Yurika rejects it on principle. Kaede had only come to Japan for Mizuki's unit audition, and she had no reason to stay anymore. Mizuki wasn't coming back. If TriStar continued on, it'd only be a matter of time before Yurika was left as the sole surviving member, and there was no way she'd be able to continue on in character with that kind of embarrassment hanging over her. To add insult to injury, a new idol school opens up that spring. Dream Academy is a state-of-the-art facility set on competing with Starlight, and its newly debuted idols enjoy a boom in popularity. Even though Yurika had just experienced a ton of growth while working alongside Japan's top idol, she suddenly finds herself stagnating. It's easy for her to blame the Dream Academy idols for stealing her momentum. Yurika is still close with all of her friends, including Kaede, and things do perk up when Ichigo returns after spending a full year abroad. But her placement continues to drop in the idol popularity rankings, and she struggles to keep her spot in the top 10. Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron start befriending their competitors though, so she tries to keep an open mind. As she continues her solo work through the winter, Yurika's nostalgia for TriStar simmers in the back of her mind. She has plenty of success on her own, performing at big events, starting commercial and acting work, and getting a big promotional push from her school. Middle school graduation comes and goes, she gets to know some of the Dream Academy girls a little better over spring break, and then she finds herself between a rock and a hard place. In order to promote more collaboration between the two idol schools, they announced the Partners Cup, a tournament for duo units. With all of Yurika's friends scrambling to enter, this is her chance to get a taste of unit work again. Or at least, it would be if she could decide on someone to enter with. When she thinks about her options, she suddenly feels afraid of getting rejected. Much to her embarrassment, Yurika ends up at her friend's partner-choosing speed dating event. She's not super enthusiastic about the Dream Academy students they've invited, and she is immediately humiliated by Kaede's noisy arrival. But she resolves to do her best regardless. Which makes it even worse when she still finds herself drawn to Kaede by the end of the event. Kaede's openness makes Yurika feel more defensive than usual. She's struggling to stay in character and makes a snap comment about choosing a servant that Ron of course takes issue with. Not a servant, a partner, Ron corrects. The one and only person fit for you to forge your stage with. That kind of partner. I know that already, Yurika argues, and it's true. She is very aware of the qualities that really matter in a partnership. Chemistry, professionalism, and open communication, to name a few. The group is assigned to think over their choice of partner that night, write down the person's name, and then submit it at a follow-up meeting the next day to hopefully have their choice reciprocated. Yurika still can't decide, stuck between two options that she knows are both bad choices. First, she obviously has history working with Kaede. They're still close friends, and Kaede had given her plenty of reason to pair with her that day alone. But if they actually went up on stage together, the media would have a field day bringing up TriStar again. It'd be the wrong kind of attention, an insult to both of their efforts to move past Mizuki's departure and re-establish themselves as independent acts. But the only other option Yurika feels drawn to is Ron. Ron clearly understands the value of a partner. She's professional and honest, and Yurika would be lying if she hadn't felt a strong chemistry between them despite all of their differences. She's just not sure if Ron would pick her. She was much closer with Ichigo and Aoi, and had gotten along really well with one of the Dream Academy girls that day. If she had to choose, then the embarrassment of getting rejected by Ron in front of all of their friends was better than the embarrassment of being called a failure on every major entertainment news platform. And she really does want to give another unit a shot, so she might as well put herself out there one more time. Still, Yurika agonizes over the decision until she falls asleep at her desk. She reports the results meeting the next day, and a small part of her hopes that Ron will choose her. But Ron picks Sora, the Dream Academy girl, and Yurika's last hope is crushed. She jumps up to assert herself, but she isn't exactly sure what to say. Her confidence is slipping too fast to maintain her usual snappiness, and she hurries to reject Sora and Ron's offer to talk things over. But then Kaede interrupts and shows her that she'd written Yurika's name down, and Yurika has to fight her own relief. Kaede should know better than to get her hopes up like this. Sensing that the situation is spiraling out of her control, Yurika rejects Kaede's offer harshly and runs back to the dorms, the only place where she can be properly upset about everything. Yurika is agitated when Kaede follows her. She's agitated when Kaede acts clueless about why they can't be partners. And she's agitated when Kaede doesn't even seem to care about the negative media attention. We'd just be living in the shadow of TriStar if we paired together, she explains again. Mizuki keeps moving on ahead while we wander around aimlessly like a couple of ghouls. She'd meant to dash Kaede's remaining hopes of working together, but instead Kaede seems to have more tricks up her sleeve. She urges Yurika to change into casual clothes, then drags her out into town. They stop in the middle of a busy street and are instantly recognized by the people around them. That seemed to be Kaede's goal as she pulls Yurika away from the growing crowd at a breakneck pace. They run so fast that Yurika doesn't even process the loss of her parasol in the chaos. When they finally lose the fans chasing after them, Yurika can't believe Kaede's audacity. You're the one who said it'd feel like we were stopping in our tracks if we paired, Kaede says. But we didn't even stop once, right? You're stopped right now, Yurika counters, only for Kaede to reveal the helicopter she's arranged for them to escape in. Since Kaede is an experienced skydiver, Yurika's shock is mainly that Kaede had arranged for it to pick them up in such a busy location. Yurika is initially afraid of the entire situation, but Kaede points out the beautiful sunset outside, and Yurika is successfully distracted. Doesn't it make you feel like we can go anywhere together, Kaede asks, and Yurika tries to hold on to her rationality. But Kaede persists, asking her directly to form a unit. I'm sure it'll be more amazing than anyone can predict, she promises. Yurika is genuinely impressed with Kaede's ambition. That's quite the confidence, she concedes, and Kaede continues. I have the ability to do it. You have the ability too, isn't that right? The subtle challenge catches Yurika off guard. It wasn't like she had any doubts about her own abilities, not at this point in her career. Kaede goes on to say that she's not afraid of any bad press they might get together, and that she imagines them exceeding everyone's expectations. It's exactly the kind of determination that Yurika had tried and failed to cultivate in herself, so she's annoyed to admit that Kaede is right. You're so pushy, she complains, and Kaede backs off for the first time. In a softer voice, she asks, You don't want to? My answer is yes, Yurika corrects her. After all that, I have no choice but to form a unit with you. Yurika is swept up in a noisy hug that she doesn't actually mind, and then the two of them are suddenly skydiving. Just like with the helicopter, her initial terror is interrupted by the beauty of the view in front of them, and her character slips away as she comments on how wonderful it feels to be parachuting down to Earth. She's flustered when Kaede catches that small amount of vulnerability, but Kaede says she was happy to see it. She'd been waiting to see Yurika's true self since TriStar, and Yurika worries for a moment that Kaede has the same negative feelings about her character that Ron does. But Kaede says that she admires how much effort Yurika puts into her vampire persona, and Yurika suddenly feels the need to reciprocate all these embarrassing affirmations. Yurika compliments Kaede on her own skill as an entertainer, and then confesses that she thought that Kaede would have left after Mizuki was gone. After all, she'd seen Kaede's homesickness firsthand many times. Kaede explains that she was interested in more than just Mizuki, and that she noticed Yurika and all of their friends in a broadcast from their second year. You seem a bit out of place, Kaede teases, and then defends herself. I mean that in a good way. Kaede concludes that with so many interesting people around, there's no way she could have gone back to America, and Yurika makes sure to tease her back. When they land at school, they're officially partners, and from there, all that's left is to prepare for the upcoming competition. Working with Kaede is even more fun the second time around. They trade favorite foods, with some compromises, and Kaede has a knack for bringing out Yurika's playful side. She doesn't feel as worried about staying character around Kaede, since there's nothing more she needs to prove to her old partner. Yurika even confesses that she's always admired Kaede's talent with magic tricks. Excited, Kaede suggests that they perform as vampire magicians, and Yurika's imagination is fully unleashed. On the day of the competition, Yurika is a little nervous about performing, but Kaede is able to hype her up. We'll just have fun as always, right? Sure enough, their performance is like a plotline right out of Yurika's childhood stories. Kaede plays a devilish character who sweeps the innocent Yurika off of her feet, only for Yurika to reveal herself as the real vampiric antagonist. They don't win, but the experience is more than enough to convince Yurika to continue working with Kaede even after the tournament wraps up. Shortly after this, Yurika also gets a chance to work directly with Maya for a commercial shoot. She worked on the project pitch herself and was very proud to present it to him. The commercial marks the revival of Yurika's overwhelming popularity, especially amongst young children. One little girl she meets at a handshake event stays on her mind. The girl was very shy and brought a book that Yurika recognized from her own childhood. She asks the girl about it, but she still can't respond. It's only as the staff end their session that she asks, Yurika, how can I become as strong as you are? Before Yurika can answer, the next fan in line steps up and the little girl walks away, clearly disappointed. Yurika has another meeting with Maya after this encounter, and she explains her mixed feelings to him. Maya understands perfectly and offers her a new project to take her mind off of things. He wants her to produce and star in the announcement event for his newest premium dress, which Yurika happily accepts. The two of them work perfectly together throughout the entire production, and Yurika reflects on how far she's come since their first meeting. She resolves to do whatever she can to find the little girl who'd asked her for strength and communicate those feelings to her. Yurika tries tweeting about the fan for leads, but has no luck. So when her friends visit her ahead of the Lily Gothic event, she asks them for help in finding her. Ron suggests that the fan is probably at that day's event if she was dedicated enough to meet Yurika in person, and Kaede leads the charge on searching the audience for her. Luckily, the fan really had shown up, and her friends bring the girl backstage to meet Yurika again. This time, Yurika meets her fully out of character, hair down, glasses on, and no exaggerated personality. The fan is confused at first, but clearly happy to see her. "This is what I'm usually like," Yurika explains, and then finally gives her answer. "What made me this strong was the desire to do Aikatsu in the lowly gothic clothes I love so much." She's called to go on standby, so she starts to get back into character as she continues. "If you want to change yourself, you have to do it little by little, like waking up 10 minutes earlier than usual, or mustering up the courage to say good morning a little louder than usual. You could also try putting on some cute clothes. And one day, look into the mirror. You'll find that you've changed. The girl you wanted to be will be staring back at you. Give it a try." This answer seems to satisfy the little girl, and Yurika heads on stage for her performance in her brand new dress. Her answer might seem a bit disingenuous on the surface. She certainly hadn't made a gradual transformation into the character she was now so well known for. But that wasn't really what Yurika had been talking about. Little by little, she tested her own limits, pushed past them, failed, succeeded, loved and lost, and found a new level of maturity. She'd grown up to feel much more like the self-assured vampire she played than the weak, insecure student she'd started out as. Yurika has plenty of reason to take pride in herself and her career. When a public vote is held to elect members for a new unit, Aikatsu 8, Yurika makes it in 3rd place, behind only Mizuki and Ichigo, the 2 top-ranked idols. Aikatsu 8 also includes Otome, Sora, Mizuki's new partner Mikuru, and 2 more Dream Academy students, Seira and Maria. Yurika struggles to feel comfortable with all the new faces at first, but they're all friends by the end of their summer concert tour. Even though it would be easy for Yurika to hold a grudge over Mizuki's abandonment of TriStar or Dream Academy's intrusion as rivals, Yurika is able to let all those old conflicts go. She didn't need Mizuki's attention anymore, or Dream Academy's popularity. She had found success without compromising her values, and Kaide's partnership had granted her a new peace of mind. So she parts with Aikatsu 8 on good terms with old rivals, and her idol ranking keeps climbing, surpassing Sora to reach 6th, then Otome to reach 5th. She even helps a new middle school student arrange a meeting with Maya, and personally suggests that Maya entrust her with his new premium dress. The following year, Yurika makes it into the 2nd generation of Aikatsu 8, and then faces one last hurdle when a competition for 3-member units is announced. As soon as she hears the news, Yurika is tempted by memories of TriStar. She can't imagine Mizuki returning to Starlight to compete with them though, so she forces herself to give up on the idea. By the time Kaede has found her to suggest the same thing, Yurika has already decided not to get their hopes up. The last thing they need is to be rejected by Mizuki a second time. Kaede is ambitious as always, but Yurika is firm in putting TriStar behind them. Or at least she'd like to be. Watching all the trios around campus training together makes her extra nostalgic for her old unit, and her mind wanders back to what Kaede said about them all having grown since their TriStar days. Her friends chatting about their own growth gives her the push she needs, and when Kaede meets up with her again, she guesses what Yurika wants to say before she can even open her mouth. Embarrassment over being read so easily aside, Yurika seriously confesses her intentions for reviving TriStar. It's not just for fun or media attention, she genuinely misses their chemistry as a group. Luckily, Kaede is on the same page, and they head to Mizuki's new agency building together the next day. Yurika still doubts that Mizuki will want to come back to them, but she had long since broken up with her last partner, so technically there was a chance. Mizuki expresses her affection for TriStar, and Yurika and Kaede both jump up in excitement when it sounds like she's accepting their offer. But Mizuki clarifies that she wants to ask the school headmistress first, to properly ask for permission to participate, and Yurika and Kaede are forced to wait for her final decision. Fortunately, everything works out, and TriStar's reunion is announced ahead of their competition appearance. The media frenzy that Yurika had always anticipated finally arrives, but it's for a good reason this time. Everyone is just as excited as they are about TriStar's new chapter. Mizuki's old partner, Mikuru, even shows up to support them before their performance. "I can hardly believe we're finally back together," Kaede says backstage, and Yurika agrees. "It feels like a dream." Mizuki takes the lead just like she always had. Let's continue the stream up on stage. The trio performs their debut song, and it feels amazing. Afterwards, Mizuki thanks them for inviting her back, and Yurika can't contain her gratitude in return. They all share a group hug, savoring the satisfaction of their successful reunion. TriStar only makes it to 3rd place in the competition, but it hardly matters. Mizuki's beautiful speech is enough. The light of TriStar has always lain sleeping inside our hearts, she addresses the audience. If today is what happens when the clouds part to let that light shine through again, I'll keep that star shining with caring hands forevermore. To every person who has given us this chance, I express my gratitude. Thank you. Mizuki is serious about this promise. She makes TriStar her main priority, and they all start working together again. Better than before, now that they're on much more equal and familiar terms. Kaede and Yurika even trust Mizuki enough to give her their blessing to start up her unit with Mikuru again, but that doesn't end up going forward in the end. As they head toward high school graduation, a new round of departures settles over Yurika's group of friends. Aoi and Mizuki both plan to go to university overseas, so TriStar goes into another hiatus. We don't hear any details about it, but we can assume it's on much more amicable terms this time. We know that they performed together at Yurika and Kaede's Starlight Academy graduation concert, and then at some point Mizuki heads off again. This time, Yurika has no concerns about Kaede sticking around. They spend just as much time together in the years following graduation, working together with all of their friends who are still in town, meeting up in their free time, and enjoying life as adults. For all the chaos of their adolescent careers, Yurika is finally able to relax, drink her blood red wine, and trust Kaede to take good care of her. It's an idle vampire's fairy tale ending. Thank you so much for watching. I was very surprised by how different Yurika's actual personality is from her vampire character, and it was really interesting to peel back the layers on her communication style. She's just a kind, passionate person underneath all the dramatic performances. Let me know your thoughts about Yurika in the comments below, and keep an eye out for more video updates in my community tab. Bye bye!
Galaxy! Amazing! It's tomato juice!